On the cross, Jesus' life stretched between the physical and the spiritual. As he called to his mother and his friend, there was a connection far beyond the physical pain that Jesus was enduring. As he continues to speak, we gain a greater clarity to the immense magnitude of what he experienced. Thousands of years of expectation had been placed upon the Messiah. All throughout the history of God's people, there were promises that a day would come, a day when God would deliver, when the king would return, and our hopes would be fulfilled. Some of these promises you may have heard. Someone would go before the Messiah and make the people ready. The Messiah would be born in Bethlehem. He would enter Jerusalem on a donkey and be hailed as a king. He would be rejected. He would be put on trial and condemned, considered a criminal. He would be silent before his accusers. Within Jesus' life, he fulfilled over 300 of these promises, each of which were hundreds of years in the making. And as he hung upon the cross, there was one that he had not yet. Later, knowing that everything had now been finished, and so that the scriptures would be fulfilled, Jesus said, "I am thirsty." A jar of wine vinegar was there, so they soaked a sponge in it, put the sponge on a stalk of the hyssop plant, and lifted it to Jesus' lips. "I am thirsty." At first, it's a little odd that this is the very last promise. It's a phrase that you and I use every single day. So how can this be the very last of hundreds of promises that have been hundreds of years in the making? Before Jesus, King David, one of his direct relatives, he wrote a song. This song, 1,000 years before Jesus, was written during a time of immense suffering for David, where he was the object of ridicule and scorn. As David wrote, he sung out of desperation because his enemies had falsely accused him. God knew he was innocent, and he was asking God to deliver him. This is the same scene as Sherry described that is occurring at this exact moment for Jesus. Here are 3 lines from David's song. "You know how I am scorned, disgraced and shamed. All my enemies are before you. Scorn has broken my heart and left me helpless. I looked for sympathy, but there was none. For comforters, but I found none. They put gall in my food and gave me vinegar for my thirst." I am thirsty. Physically, it's essential to the existence of every human. When under immense physical and emotional stress, our body cries out for water. Spiritually, our souls have the very same response: to feel dry, in need, and to cry out. Here's Jesus at the most defining moment in human history, his death upon a cross. And as he hung there, Jesus expresses a need, a deep physical and spiritual need. I am thirsty. Jesus, the God of the universe, the one who's been able to heal and deliver so many others, he expresses a need himself, a need for a drink. And as we just read, this is no ordinary drink. This is a drink knowing that everything had been finished and so that the promises would be fulfilled. A final promise and over 300 others. A thirst that, though physical, had a far greater magnitude spiritually. Suffering upon the cross, Jesus experienced the weight of humanity upon his body. The deep spiritual thirst of each one of us was within him. For all humanity throughout all time, it was laid upon Jesus. A deep thirst, which as one person experiencing their own said this: "Have pity on me, and dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, because I am in agony in this fire." Here's Jesus, scorned, disgraced, shamed, all of his enemies before him. His heart is broken, and he's left helpless. As he looked for sympathy, there was none. As he looked for comfort, there was none. And he said, "I am thirsty." And there just so happened to be a jar of vinegar with the soldiers nearby. And as Jesus experiences this, it's not for himself. It's for us. It's for all humanity throughout all time. We are why Jesus hung there. It was our choices. It was our mistakes. It was our sins that placed him there. It was our deep spiritual thirst that lies within each one of us that he experienced billions of times over. And as Jesus said, "I am thirsty," we say, "Forgive us." And just as these words were put to a song 1,000 years before Jesus, so our words are now. Forgive us.